is Radio 3000 on Music Your Memories. Welcome to the third and final hour of Rise with me, Gear a little bit. Our favorite time, right? At least for most of us, spirituality with John Homewood. John is a life coach. He's a teacher. He's got a passion for sharing the wisdom he's learned, years of self-reflection, of study, of life lessons. And it sounds to me like has read every spiritual master, about every spiritual master there is out there. And he shares himself and his time with us every Sunday to teach us. Today, he's speaking on what controls our lives. Don't you ever ask yourself, is it free will or are things just destined to be the way they are? Let's join John this morning. Namaste, John. Happy Sunday. My voice is back. I'm in good health. Nice to talk to you. What controls our lives? Is it free will or are things just meant to be the way that they are? Destiny.
Well, good morning, and I'm glad that you're back to health, and hello to the listeners. Yes, that's a question which I have pondered on most of my life. In fact, the very first public talk I ever did many years ago was on this very subject. If our life is predestined, then why do we really have to bother? And if it's free will, then we need to work very hard to get what we want. And I've often pondered those two questions. And if I look back at my life, the major nodal points in my life, in other words, the major situations that have happened in my life that have put me on a certain direction in life, have not been of my choosing. They're major events that happen to us in life that we really don't choose. I mean, the first one is, do we really choose where we're born in our parents? Maybe from a higher level we do, but definitely not from this level. And then if you look at certain crisis points in your life, you didn't choose those. They just came along and they directed your life in a certain direction. And so I say that there is a certain map of our life. There is a certain river of our life which we get onto when we're born. But between those nodal points, I think we do have the freedom to express ourselves in creative ways between those very important nodal points in our lives. And it really is this question of free will versus destiny, a question of perspective and how we look at it and at what level we are prepared to look at this. It's the same as saying, for example, if we're living on earth, that there is night and there is day. Yes, while we're living here, there is certainly this contrast between light and dark, day and night. But if we were to zoot out into outer space in a little spacecraft and sit up there in the sky, we would look down and we would see the earth turning, and we would look maybe sideways and see the sun shining. And for us, the sun would be shining and there would be no night and day. But if we look down on the earth, we can see definitely there is contrast, there is night and day. So it really depends on your level of perspective as to how you see the truth. Because in fact, yes, we have freedom and yes, we have destiny, and they both work together. Now, the mind does not like that paradox. The mind loves clarity. But in fact, all truth I've found in my life comes through embracing opposites. And I think by embracing the idea of complete freedom and the idea of the fact that there is a destiny for us, we can work both together from a higher level of perspective. And if we do that, I think we can be more balanced in our living of our lives, in the way we experience and enjoy life. It's rather like getting onto a train journey. I think when we're born, we get onto a particular track or get into a certain river, and that river or that train has a certain destination. It will go through certain twists and certain turns on our life journey. But how we experience that river or how we experience that train trip is entirely in our hands. That's where we have absolute freedom. We can choose, the old adage is you sit in the train and you look out the window and you look at the mud and you complain about that mud, or you look up and you see the beautiful stars in the sky. And both of those perspectives will influence how you experience your journey. You can be on the train and pretend you're the train driver. You can be on the train and sit at the back and pretend you're the guardsman. And you can organize the train in a certain way, and you can organize your cabin in a certain way. Those you're all free to do. But you're on that train, and that train has a journey and has a destination. And there are certain people on that train trip with you that you will interact with. And at the end of the train journey or the end of the river, it isn't about what actually happened to you. It's how you dealt with what happened to you. It's how you interacted with those around you. Did you build up fear and anxiety and resentment and anger? And did you work out of need, fear, and greed? Or did you work from a level of community, from a level of love, from a level of compassion and caring, and adding your best to the journey? And I think that will really determine the destination. So I believe that we are a combination of both the destiny and the free will. But one thing we absolutely are responsible for is how we experience the journey. And also to know that while we're on this journey, there are consequences for everything that we do on the journey. Even if the journey is pre-written to a certain extent, we are 100% responsible for how we act on the journey, and there are consequences for that. The same way as the law of gravity operates, whether you're a good person or bad person, gravity always is in control of your body. And so it is with life, and I believe that there is a law, and it's the law of as you sow, so shall you reap. It's in the East, they call it the law of karma. And basically, for every action, there is a consequence of that action. And that will determine our next journey, because I believe that we have many, many, many journeys. Energy is our pure essence, and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Energy just changes form. So the consciousness which animates your brain, which animates your body, is eternal. It's always been here. It's always been around. And that energy may take many different forms and may inhabit many train journeys or many river rides. But ultimately, there are laws which determine what your broader set of circumstances are going to be. And so the most important part on this whole journey is your state of presence, your state of awareness, because that's where balance is. If you're in presence, you are more likely to be in a compassionate, loving, and empathetic state than if you're in the past and in the future, where imbalance happens. So if you want to make your journey ahead the best possible journey, then I would suggest that being present is going to help you iron out the ups and the downs of your future experience. It's going to help you live more in a peaceful, more in a fulfilled way. You know, while the mind loves certainty and predictability, our spirit loves to dance in the joyful freedom of presence, and to make presence more important than the outcome. Life is a balance. When we use the past to learn from it, and we work towards the future enthusiastically, but we always make the present moment our focal point of living.
Make the present moment the focal point of our living. So powerful. I love that because I myself was looking forward to today's talk, because I was asking myself, is it possible that it's destiny? But what happens to free will? And I love how you say that the major events of our lives we don't choose. We don't choose where we're born, to who we're born, the color we're born in, whether we're male or female, but also equally we don't choose the challenges that come into our life. Who would choose challenge? We have a map, it turns out, for our lives, and yet on the other end, we have the freedom to create what comes out of the map of our lives. It's just a question of perspective, and life is made up of contrasts. And I think nature teaches us in those contrasts of night and day. And unfortunately, though, the paradox of difference, what you're seeing, is something that our mind does not like. It wants either or. And we need to learn in the course of our journeys to embrace that opposites are good. And you say, I love the train example. You say, our lives are like being on a train trip. The matter of perspective is what determines how you experience a train trip. You can look outside and see dirt or dust, or look in the sky and see the beauty of the sky. It's just really a journey, and it has a destination. And at the end of the journey, we're aged by how we dealt with the experience of our journey, whether we used fear, whether we used compassion. How did we experience that journey? How did we act in the course of the journey? And every part of the journey, though, has consequences. As you say, as you sow, so you shall reap. Every action has consequence. And our energy will never change or dissipate or change form. It just changes form, you said. And our state should always be about being present and being aware, so that we can be responsible for every part of our journey. You're a great teacher, John. You're a fantastic teacher.
Thank you. Yes, the amount of presence we bring in frees us to make real conscious choices. If you're so caught up in your story, you're not really free to make conscious choices. But when you're present, then you are operating what's called the prefrontal lobe. And you are consciously aware of what's happening, so you can choose and choose a new destiny for yourself.
Fantastic. I forgot to say, where can people find you?
Well, I have a website, johnhomewood.net. That's johnhomewood.net. And I'm also on Facebook. They can connect with me at johnhomewood7 at Facebook. And I'm going to put a synopsis of this morning's talk up on my blog on my website. And obviously there's a lot more that I can share on the subject, and I will do so on the blog.
Thank you, John. Have a lovely week. Thank you.
You too. Bless you. Bye-bye.